All right, so welcome to episode 4, Urban Dance and Dialogue, Funk and Focus. Here with ClashCPH. We got some of the folks on the program. We got folks tuning in to Future Assassins on Instagram. We got Funk and Focus on YouTube live. We do this every Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, just trying to start conversation, get some ideas out there, get people starting dialogue about different topics. And today's topic is no different. We're talking about doing things for the culture versus doing it for the culture. So basically, just to explain that topic and why we're gonna go into that is because the definition of the word culture is really broad and people use it super loosely. People use it sometimes in ways that's actually more opportunistic and about just sounding good. Words like culture, words like community, words like unity, all these sort of key words that people are using, but I don't think we're really thinking about what these words mean. People aren't having those conversations. It just sounds good, so people are using it. So today is really about sort of like what is the culture for different people, and what kind of general principles can we decide on. We want to hear what you guys have to say as well. Clash in a little bit is going to share what their idea is for representing the culture and how they do that through their event ClashCPH, which is coming up, and they'll talk about that more soon. But I'm just going to start by talking a little bit more about this topic. So doing things for the culture versus the culture. I think a few things come to mind just right off the bat. A few words: selflessness, legacy, respect. I think it's hard to represent what I consider the culture, which is African American traditional dances and these dances from the states that came from low income neighborhoods and people of oppression and people who needed a voice. I think it's very hard to be in service to the culture, this part of the culture, if we're not somehow connected to these people, if we're not trying to be in service to anyone else that has inspired us or paved the way for the opportunities that we have now. And I think if we're thinking about like our followers and our likes and the opportunities that dance can give us, then we're neglecting the fact that we're a part of a culture and we're a representation of a culture. And how can we do a better job with that? So I think that can go for being a solo artist. You can think about that as well as being in an organization and a group. So people that throw events, how does your event represent the culture, or do you think I don't think it's always a black and white thing. Sometimes it's a gray area. Sometimes it's like, sometimes you represent the culture a little bit and you have more of like a mainstream appeal. And in that case, it might just mean maybe you could push more on some of the cultural side of things, incorporate those into your event. Other folks like urban artistry and I'd say Clash as well have like a heavy focus on incorporating what we consider the culture into our events and creating an experience for people that not only is relevant today, but also touches on the things of the past and brings the people that were a part of these foundations and these legacies of the dance. And I think, so that's why I said respect, selflessness, legacy. These types of things are basically what I believe can help us incorporate the culture back into what we're doing, because urban dance and street dance today is actually not, it's a lot of the culture. It's a lot of representation of the culture. Like there's a lot of events that are about, mainstream media, getting as much attention as possible, making money, as much money as possible, just getting the popular people at your events because that will get more of the mainstream crowd in. There's a lot of watering down of the dance. We're lacking some authenticity, and people, I do believe that events that do that, they reach a crowd and they can get people interested in the dance. But if there's nothing at that event with cultural value that brings you back, that gives you legacy, that gives you something to know more of, then we're not taking full advantage of these opportunities to reach people and give them the full cultural experience of what the dance has been for people in the past and what it can be for them today. So I think, again, like for me, the culture is these things, the neighborhoods where the dance grew up in. And to be honest, a lot of there's so many people that are the culture for real, that really do the dance in these little neighborhoods in the States. Take the Fillmore district in San Francisco, thousands of groups, and Lonnie Green will tell you this, thousands of people that nobody knows. And there's so many dances in America, like all these neighborhoods with tons of amazing dancers that nobody has a clue. And overseas, you just kind of see the icing on the cake, or I don't want to word it like that, but just the people that kind of make it out in some way of those neighborhoods. But it's not a full representation of the culture. So how do we get better at representing a fuller scope of the culture and being in service to more of those people, to really bring the culture and not we do it for the culture to the events that are going on around the world. That is my spiel, but I want to get to our guests on the show today, ClashCPH. We're here drinking some tea.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Skål. We're in Denmark. We're in Copenhagen, getting ready for the Clash Festival.
We're getting hugely in here.
Yeah, we're getting real hugely. You got to get hugely in Denmark.
Warm tea.
Nice warm strawberry tea.
Because the weather's cold here.
Yeah, it's cold here.
Dark.
Yo, it's dark and cold. There's like a lot of lighting to brighten us up right now. So, what we're going to do is a quick interview with them, and we're going to get into questions and comments from there. So, please feel free to drop questions, comments, concerns at any time. We want to hear about your opinion on this topic. And we want to share and create dialogue because we don't have all the answers. And that's not the point of this. The point is to start conversation, to say where we're at in our process with what culture is and how we represent that with what we're doing and with our art, and see what you guys are doing as well and what you think we could do better. So, So would you guys mind telling all of us kind of the purpose and mission of ClashCPH?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you again for having us. It's very nice to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
So when we started, we wanted to make sure that what we felt were missing kind of would be there. You know, we all wanted to be able to talk and exchange and learn and teach and get taught, and all this that actually seems like being a human being within this culture, and actually putting sharing with everyone in a way, and understanding each other, and it was very important for us to to be Clash, and to bring what we thought was missing, rather than being the ones that were always like, oh, this event was like that, oh, we don't have so much of this and that. So that was really rather than being that, we wanted to bring the culture aspect into it too.
Yeah.
When we started Clash, we in Denmark had a few years, solid years, where we had events, battles that were consistently happening, Battle Hands, Bring the Heat, other smaller events too. And then for a few years, it kind of died out, a lot wasn't happening. So as freestyle dancers, we also felt a thing was missing for us. You know, like we didn't really have a platform anymore or not like one that we could feel on a weekly or monthly basis where we could interact and like tell our stories or hear other people's stories or exchange and interact with each other and kind of like build on what was happening when we started dancing. And so we felt like, well, other people have kept us going, you know, who were much older than us and who were in different dance organizations or schools or different platforms, whether it was free practice or whatever. And we felt like, okay, I guess it's time for us to also like be part of that, you know, else things are just kind of gonna stop and it's just gonna continue with things that are happening for the culture.
Yeah, exactly. So then, okay, so let's talk about what your guys' kind of definition of what that is for you. Like, what is representing the culture to you, and you know, how do you include it in your ClashCPH festival each year?
Yeah, so so the whole thing about the culture thing aspect is also like I was talking with Diana earlier too. For example, when we talk with you, we just see this whole aspect that actually the way you receiving things and everything, that it's not about, like you said, getting money or getting fame or anything. We're actually trying to become better at what we do, you know. And in a way, I'm also always connecting this whole thing with like being a human, like me being a better hip hop person or whatever. Is also making me a better human. It's a part of who we are. So the moment it becomes too much about material stuff, that's where it seems like, well, that the culture gets out. So we really try to put light into a lot of different things that we normally feel like it's not there, you know. So if like we had a walk through the city where we had one of our the old dancers from here like talk about what happened where, because we thought that was important too, to bring light. And we had panel discussions, and we really try to do different aspects than rather just think that the dancing and the battles and the jams are everything. Then we rather want to be able to talk and do everything, and actually hopefully this is also going to improve how we move in a way. Yeah, that's a lot about the culture and stuff like that.
I think like for commonly here, because the main culture of like a lot of the urban dances are not from here, and not even from our neighbor countries. Like they're from a different continent, the States. So we've adopted an expression and a culture from African Americans. So for us, we don't come from the same history. We don't come from the same circumstances or a system either. So the purpose of that is different a lot of the times here. Not to say that like people have different backgrounds they come from and stories, but I think for us the culture is about giving us purpose in our life. You know, it's how we define like substance, meaning with why we want to do this, or like how should I live my life? Okay, well I'm not going to fit in. That doesn't make me feel like I'm feeling fulfilled in any way. So, but this expression makes me feel like it gives me purpose to who I am and who I can be, or what life is about.
Yeah. And also with the culture being so many different things before it can be a culture, also for us means that we have to bring all these things into it. Otherwise, if we only put light to one aspect, well, are we just lighting what we like, or is it just the culture, you know? So that's why we really want to put light to everything in a way that is connected to that event in that sense.
Yeah. So what you said, you do panels and workshops and things like that. So what types of guests do you guys have? What types of panels? What do you talk about at your panels? You know, like what types of workshops? What kind of culture are you really trying to build with your community here?
So we try to like look at the festival activities are supposed to be like a representation of different traditions within urban dance, whether it's battles or parties, jamming, practicing, teaching, But at the same time, it's also for us to have the conversation, because from where we come from, we have a need to understand more about it, which we can't get from here. Because again, it's an adopted culture and expression. So what we have throughout the week is the panel discussion and the lecture as well, which is really important for us to incorporate. The people that we bring in are supposed to tell, which they have, the stories of different communities from the state. So it's not just one-sided from this area, but it's different areas. Whether it's having you and Rashad talk about strutting, or it's having Rashad teach hip hop, from a little bit from New York, a little bit from the West Coast, like from what he has researched on, or Risky as well, or inviting Rico over to teach Memphis juking, again, like a different community from where you guys are from and where we're from, but still something that we need to know more about, because where we are right now in our development is we can hear, and we've heard the story more often about where hip hop stems from, which is important too. But there's just much more to that story that isn't just from New York, and that isn't just LA, but there is different communities, and exploring and inviting people that can talk on behalf of these communities, makes us be more aware of how we can't stay tunnel vision with it. We have to look at it from a wider perspective, and at the same time, that will also make us reflect on our own community. How we look at it. Are we also tunnel vision, like looking at only these group of people, or is there more to the story? Which of course there is, because a culture isn't made of two people or five. It's made out of
and that's interesting, because it's like a never-ending process of learning more. And the more you keep learning about the culture and the history and these different people, the more you can, activate them in your space, or get to know these different people, or think about hip hop in a different light. Think about these dances in a different light, because you realize there's more things.
And you get to understand that it's dynamic. It's just not, this is culture and this is how it is. You can't just, I think, at least look at it like that. Every time we bring something in and do something, the culture changes a bit, but not in a way where we just forget the old thing. But it's, everything is dynamic and works together.
You guys did a panel discussion on discrimination and race things. Wasn't there one year? Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Year? No, second year we did on discrimination, which led into the LGBTQ community, which led into African American race issues too, and
And you guys felt that was important out here in Denmark?
Well, yeah, because I think from here we're not used to looking at these stories as what they come from, like oppression and suffering and poverty, and and why those circumstances have existed, again, history. So we kind of, again, can easily look at it from a very celebrated, oh, I feel good, I'm rapping to B.I.G.'s text, but I'm not really listening to what he's rapping about. It's again oh shoot, and here I am, So that lack of respect kind of is there because we don't know of it, not because that we purposely try to do it. And I think there's a lot of those things that are happening, and that's why we keep bringing people in to can we create the awareness so we can develop, but with respect, with integrity, and bringing quality in our.
Also, the culture is representing of what, it's a worldwide culture. So what happens in the world happens in the culture. Happens in this thing we do, with this thing we sometimes call hip hop, sometimes call something different. All these things happens, and it's kind of important to put light into it rather than just be it doesn't happen right in front of my eyes. That's the thing where when it happens, isn't it too late? Kind of thing. So we think all these things are important. We really want to put topics that are connected in that sense, and that we find important. Because this culture is in the world, and the world is sometimes greeting.
And things that keep the culture going, right? We represent that in our panel and lectures too, you know, where we bring in the word like that we've learned from having you, like having the conversation with urban artistry or with you or Rashad, like when reciprocity, one of the words comes in, like that's a factor that's important for a culture to survive. You know? Here we are and we're like, who? Like we don't know what that means, like because we don't think like that. We just kind of flow with it, you know. So it's important for us to have these conversations so we can be aware of it and be like, oh, okay, like can I make an effort and bring in some reciprocity here for people who are like, or like community, what does that really mean? Or culture, what does it really mean? Or exchanging, what does that really mean? Because we're so fast at just catching, you know, the trendy words like lit. Let's be lit, you know, and it was like, well, what does it mean? Where does it come from? Like,
I think the word awareness that you mentioned is really important because once you make people aware of something, then it gives them the option to have a choice. You know, when people are unaware, they're just kind of floating in Funsville, which is great, you know, like to be having fun with dance because that's one of the purposes is to let go and, you know, be free and have a good time and connect with people. But I think the awareness side is like, you know, getting people to realize they're a part of an African American traditional art form and culture, you know, like that fact almost in Europe and in Asia, I'm seeing more and more that people don't recognize that. Like it's not a thing people recognize. And I think at the panel last year maybe, or one of them, I was asking like who thinks of this as you're a part of an African American traditional dance, you know, like these are just traditional dances of African American neighborhoods in the States. Like this is what they do, this is their culture. And I don't think anyone really understood that. So that's like in the States we get that, but overseas there's like a huge gap. And this is where people start to bring up this topic of like, oh, cultural appropriation and these things and, you know, culture vultures and words like that. But I think the word awareness is important because once people are aware of these things, then they at least have a choice to like either continue to not acknowledge the heavier side of the dance, you know, and really, which is its roots, you know, the injustices, the oppression, and how to be in service to something, how reciprocity, you know. So I think like that's, you know, I've had a lot of good experiences at the Clash Festival with seeing people become aware of certain things and almost being shocked that they weren't aware at first, but I was shocked. I was like, oh my God. Like, but you know, like it's good because it's educating people.
Yeah, but that's a serious thing, right? That a lot of people actually aren't aware of these things. And then the moment they are, actually a lot of these people really just want the best and like want to do good stuff and, you know, want to be a part of the culture and like give to the culture in the same way and everything. But like I said, they're just not aware. So it's like a really important thing to do to bring awareness. And it goes back to why we also want to do all these different things at our festival.
So how do you guys like educate yourselves on these things to help like bring awareness to them to other people and you know, like maybe also tell us a little bit about the connection with urban artistry, you know, because that kind of ties into that, but maybe there's more than urban artistry that you guys personally look into these types of topics yourself and are aware of it, but also, you know, tell us a little bit about the connection with urban artistry and that partnership.
Well, the connection with urban artistry is that you and Rashad came to Denmark 6 years now, 5, 6, 2012,
7, 12.
Okay, well, well, and you guys came here and you know, try to look up the small community we have, try to involve yourself through like practices or going out, you know, writing people, what's up, meet, dance stuff, and like through those interactions, like different relationships are built, like friendships and so on. So I think like meeting you and Rashad and Rena met you guys too, you know, having a conversation with Rashad where he was like, hey, like you guys should should do something for your community. You know, like you guys should believe in yourself and like do something, like create something together and put your voices. And we're like, ooh, okay, what does that mean? So easy to be the follower. And now he's telling us to do something. Oh, shit. So I think that was the first awareness, actually somebody sitting us down and telling us that we have a responsibility, like that we have that worth of carrying that responsibility. It was more like that, not that like do something. Like it wasn't like that. It was like, wow, okay. And then we went to Soul Society, International Soul Society in DC, 2014, in June, May, something like that. And then we saw how Urban Artistry was doing their festival, and we were just like mesmerized by it completely. So like there was everything from battles to parties to jams to panel discussions to lectures. Like it was just so informative and so genuine and so inclusive, that it felt like such a good learning experience from that. And then that brought us home, and we're like, all right, we gotta do a festival too.
I remember there were a jam where there were like food and people were like and eating like at a dinner and having a good time with people like, oh, these are some good dancers, and they were like DJs and judges and everything, but you know, when we're just sitting there and eating, everybody's just hanging out together. Everybody's just hanging out and genuinely sharing. So when you actually get to that point where it's like now you share on the floor, you already know like how people kind of are, so it's like it becomes more genuine in a way, you know. You already feel like nobody's here to show off. And that whole way of building the festival where like culture first, you know, really inspired us.
Nice.
So that's how we started, and then 5 years later, we're at the 5th edition.
Nice.
Clash.
So tell us a little bit about what's going on the festival this year. The festival's coming up shortly, October 29th through November 4th here in Copenhagen. Tell us a little bit about what's going on this year.
Oh man, so many good things.
This one's gonna be dope.
Well, of course, we are still doing our activities. We have workshop, panels, lectures, the battles. You can qualify for the Abyss also, which is Urban Artistry's house dance competition, and you can win a ticket to go there and get your own ticket to it. And then we have performance competition too. But it's the people that are coming, and it's the people from here that are excited. That is the part that just is so cool. And the people that are coming are...
Who's coming?
For us, this is really important because now we are digging into our own history. So Anthony Edwards is coming, a guy who was here many moons ago, and definitely sparked and inspired some of our most respected dancers here, like Thomas, Steen, Kenneth, Locksmith.
Thomas.
So it's a great honor for us that he's gonna come and attend our festival, and that's a guy that we're super excited.
And he's teaching locking and boogie
London
toe.
style locking, and boogie toe.
Which you don't see that workshop anywhere. That's super rare. Both of those are super rare.
And this is a person I think in like all of Scandinavia, if you talk with people who's been around at that time, to just be like, yo, Anthony, he would do this and that, and he would be gone, you know. And we just heard so much about the superhero, but he's really, like Diana said, been a huge influence to our whole community here. So we are so happy that we could get him.
Then we have Tsunami's coming from San Francisco. Woo-hoo. So we're really excited to hear about the Bay Area part of house culture, club culture. That's really then your shot, of course. Family.
Why we strut.
Yeah.
Teaching strutting.
Russell is coming to
Russell is gonna come and DJ. DJ
Nate
Massey.
Massey.
Nate Massey. Senna is coming from Finland. DJ Soul Senna. Jalisa is gonna sing for the Abyss. Live singing, live drumming.
Yo Means No.
Yo Means No, a local group here, rapper and trumpet player. That's really cool.
Yeah, really nice, kind of innovative way of doing like hip hop today. That one is rapping live, another one is playing, and they're gonna do that at our jam.
Yes.
So yeah, we're just gonna get down to that, and then hopefully talk with them afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little bit of everything. I see here we got live music, battle, jam, dance workshops, showcase competition. So that's a performance
Yeah.
day, lectures and discussion, and after parties. So it's a full schedule, a full week
Yeah.
of things going on. And last year was pretty huge. A lot of people in Europe came and represented.
Yeah.
Sweden was in the house. Finland.
Sweden.
So
And we're also trying to have this thing with our battles that we try to like make it a bit different, try to challenge our dancers and still like make it exciting. We have a drummer who's gonna play live, we have the singers,
Yeah.
it's just
Our class session battle is basically based on tradition within the culture, like whether it's like how you socially interact through a cipher or like a partner, or it's you involving your props, and how do you make that character come alive, or that you're actually telling personal stories like into the movement, so it doesn't become a technical thing, but it becomes you storytelling as well.
It brings people outside of their comfort zones.
Yeah.
It's like a challenge, very conceptual.
Yeah.
So you guys have the all-style battle and then the house battle for people that are interested in like the battle side of it.
Exactly.
An all-style, and then the performance competition.
Yeah.
So a little bit of everything, and I think that's why this event is so great, and definitely recommend coming out this year because it's just a well-rounded package. To bring awareness to the community, and it's a great experience. Brings a lot of people together, but we're also going to see so many dope dancers from so many different places sharing their experience, and a lot of these people are connected to cultures and experiences outside of the Danish one, but also somewhat is connected to the Danish one too.
Yeah.
So it's just, that's the cool thing. It's very three-dimensional. It's a lot of perspectives, and that's really dope that there's so many perspectives coming together, and that's okay and cool. So now we want to get into some questions, comments. Again, the topic is doing it for the culture versus doing it for the culture, right? We brought Clash. They've talked a little bit about what doing it for the culture is to them. I talked a little bit about what it is for me in the beginning. So now I just want to scroll through, see if you guys have any questions, any comments, if you've seen anything, that you didn't like, where people are saying they're doing it for the culture, but they're really doing it for the culture, meaning the culture of myself, which is happening, and it's something we should talk about. So let's scroll through a little bit and see what we got going on. So we're going to go to the Instagram first. See, I don't know if we had any questions. I think people are listening quietly and calmly, but there's a lot of things happening. Okay, Mike, what up, Mike? Sam, Hikari, Breathe Flow, what up, Jade? Yo, Taiwan's in the house, Argentina's in the house, Jazz. I'm turned, but I ain't missing one of these. Live knowledge sessions, thank you all for giving so much more than is expected. One love. Big love from Taiwan. What up, Lemzo? What up, Avery?
Yo.
Hugely. Yo, it's Hugely out here. Y'all need to come out to Copenhagen. Okay. You listen. All right. What up, Osama? Everybody's just like stopping through.
Yeah.
Robo Z, I know Robo Z's got something to share. Robo Z's always
he always
got a little something for us.
Good comments.
Yo, what up? Shadows. All right, so we don't have any questions or comments so far, but I think the YouTube might have something. So let's see what's going on over there. All right.
Oh.
What inspired you to dance? Well, that's a little off topic, so I'm going to skip that for now. True African American dance traditions. That's right. African American traditional dance went worldwide. Now we got people adding their own twist to it, doing it all over the place, but we can't forget about the originators. Dance for me is peace of mind, combating the stress of society in this world to express myself since I was 12. That's dope. And that's like a personal cultural thing, you know, like what it can be for you personally is one thing, and then what I would recommend is like also to have something to say about, you know, what you can do for the dance. When you think of what it does for you, also think what can I do for the dance? You know, reciprocity. Tawatha. Yes, I agree. Let's share more aspects of this culture than only battles and competition. Yeah, definitely. I mean, battles and competitions, there's definitely a place for battles and competitions. They give a lot of like limelight to people. They're places where people are networking. But you know, the dance has always been so 360. The dance has always been more than just movement, you know, and this is what we're talking about, like the events and the people and the organizers that are trying to create spaces where it's about learning and gaining an experience bigger than movement, you know, an experience where people are becoming aware of new things about the culture, aware about history and the roots of where this dance came from and why that's important. And, you know, also, yeah, outside of competition and battles, there's so many things that dancers can do. I mean, like, there's theater, performance, there's cipher and ciphering, which doesn't really happen at in the competition. You know, it's just one round, 45 seconds, and that's like, you know, people say that like some of the contests kill the cipher culture, and there's some truth to that. Like, not a lot of people are just ciphering and clubbing, killed club culture, kind of, you know. So like, there's definitely truth to that, and yeah, I think there's just so much more we can do as artists. There's so much more we can be as movers. But yeah, let's see. Sam's got something for us. What up, Sam? Can you guys share a little bit more in the way of using the word itself, culture? In which ways do you guys think it's misused?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, I think, well, definitely have to think about kind of why you're doing things, right? So as soon as it just becomes like short and let's get as much out of it as we can, you know, possible, and then we put our culture like that, that kind of seems wrong. And if you don't look at any of the other aspects of history, like where did it come from, kind of, you know, when we talk about this, I can't say that word.
Reciprocity.
Involving the people.
Yeah, you know, involving like naturally, if something or somebody gave you something, you would at least say thank you, right?
Yeah.
And a way of doing that in this way will be just by showing stuff, bringing some people, giving back, and like make sure that it stays alive more than just you doing this today. Kind of. I think that's where it is being misused when you just use it today.
Yeah.
For today, for me, for like that. And then
Yeah.
that's.
Yeah, I feel like there's more words other than culture that are being misused. Like I said in the beginning, I'd say the word like sharing, unity, community, culture are for the more misused words. I just think that simply for me, it's like when you're using the word, it's when you're saying it's about the culture and you're doing things that are more about opportunistic behavior, um, or you're saying, oh, I can't wait to share with like on this like, you know, I can't wait to share on this famous TV show when it's like, yeah, you're going on the TV show and that's cool. You're gonna share your art, but sharing is like a two-way thing. Like it's not like a show like some of those large shows are more they have nothing to do with culture. Like to be honest, they're stripped from culture and it's all about the aesthetic and entertainment. So, you're sharing you, but are you sharing the culture of the dance? That's the question. What are you sharing when you say you're sharing? And when I think people misuse the word culture when they're talking about like when they're creating things outside of the people that are already a part of the culture and the community. Like if you're within a community and you're like, oh, I'm going to stay away from those guys and say, oh yeah, it's all about the culture. It's all about peace, love, unity, and these things. And you're not about that. You're literally creating opportunities for yourself and you're creating like ways that you can look good, and you're avoiding the people that are actually a part of the culture. Are you really doing it for the culture if you're not connected in any way, shape, or form to somebody from the culture? Like if you just come into it and you start teaching and you call it experimental and you say it's for the culture, or you come in and you start teaching popping within a year and then you say, oh, it's for the culture. Oh, popping culture, it's for the culture. No, if you're teaching within a year, it's probably most of the time it's for you. It's not for the culture. Doing it for the culture means selflessness. That's what it means. For me, it means selflessness. So when you see opportunistic behavior, it's really clear. People that go around people that are a part of the culture are usually misusing the word culture. And people that are not connected or in service in any way to people that are like a part of legacy and some of the traditions and stories of the dance, if you're not making an effort to try to be connected to someone that might be connected to it or the actual people that are connected to it in those places and trying to learn more, and you're constantly doing things in your little bubble and saying it's about the culture, my question is, you might be talking about the culture of making money. You might be talking about the culture of helping yourself, of doing things for yourself. And that's where I see like the big issue is like when it's not the culture of selflessness, when it's not the culture of reciprocity. If you're saying something's about the culture and there's no hint or touch of selflessness, then I think that's when people are misusing it. That's one of my things. All right, we got some more questions. RoboZ. All right, RoboZ. Okay, he's got a comment. I believe that perception and consciousness is important for dancing with myself, sharing my dancing, observing dance, plus which individual opinion you get is through culture, teacher, environment, way of living, etc. I'm going to read that one more time. Because sometimes the language is a little bit tricky. I believe that the perception and consciousness is important for dancing with myself, sharing my dancing, observing dance, plus which individual opinion you get is through culture. Teacher, I can't read that word, environment, way of living. RoboZ, can you simplify that for us, brother, and let us know a little bit? Meaning of culture and the definition is super important. That we can definitely agree on. Try to rephrase that because I'm having trouble understanding exactly what you mean. Caden, what up, Caden? I feel those words are misused when the goals of the individual aren't mutually beneficial to all parties involved. If self-gain outweighs communal growth, it's not for the culture. Mm-hmm. Wow, really well said. Really nice. And that's kind of what I was getting at too, is like this idea of self-gain. And I like how he compared it to outweighing communal growth. So that's a good word right there, like communal growth.
Which a lot of these dances are made of. It's to have communities grow out, like have opportunities come into the community, like so I think also like when you start messing with some values and some principles that have created this culture and you dismiss them and say no, then you're kind of moving away from what that culture is, but you're still using the same language, movement, sound, everything.
Right.
For probably something that's beneficial for yourself or whatever you're working for.
I think really much as if you go and travel to any country and you can't just pick something of the culture and be like, oh, I'm going to eat this food because this is nice, and I'm going to sleep where you sleep because this space is messed up. I don't like that. That would be super disrespectful, right? You know, you can't just pick what you like and then do the rest by yourself. And I kind of think that's the same thing with the dance culture. It's also a culture where there are so many aspects, and misusing it is this where you just take something and be like, this is what I like, you know, this is for me. And then you forget everything else. Right? So again, with the communal growth, when you think about that.
And I think about like urban dance culture and like Black American experience is such a large thing, you know, and what people seem to be doing is picking little pieces. So they'll go dance competitions, choreography. Let's get rid of that.
This fashion or
let's
whatever.
This fashion trend. Okay, let's take that. Let's move everything else out the way and put all our focus into these things, which don't really have to do with any of the principles. Like culture is so much, right? Culture is fashion. It's the way people. It's what you eat. It's the way you speak. You know, like people forget that that's a part of culture. Like. I'll talk about it again. Every time we went to the Strutters room, remember everybody went up to Lonnie and approached him like this. What up, Lon? How you doing, Lon? They were not dancers, but they were strutters. That's what I mean. They were not dancers, but they were strutters. So like they grew up in that. They remember that. So that's just how they greet each other. That's cultural. They were greeting them like that because they live like that. They live that stuff. So it's like, we can't forget how big the word culture is, you know, and then just take out choreography and say we're representing the culture. And a lot of the choreography going on in the world, the main, most popular stuff is like the stuff that's actually the farthest removed from the culture and the mission of the people and what they represented.
Which makes me think of like people from Europe, or probably, I don't know for Asia, but I've never been there. But like commonly it's like, oh, we're gonna learn about this culture. Let me go a month to New York, or like a month to LA, you know. And then you go to these dance studios and you take your classes and you meet your 5 people or whatever. But you don't really get involved in their community. You don't really listen to their full stories or people that are connected to that story. You only go to the shallow places of like whatever that is, you know. And that's it. And then you come home and you're like, yeah, I get it. Like, I know what this is about. And it's like,
and then it's like a makeover, you know?
You know, they come home with the new gear, you know, and
new look, new attitude, and they only experience one small piece of the pie. They got the slang
going on, whatever.
And it becomes a horrible chain, right? Because then they teach someone else, and they're like, oh, okay, so that's what it is. I mean, I know my chica's been there for a month, so this person knows everything, and now I know everything. And then it continues like that. And so, I think, especially when we talk about this whole process and how you look at it, that's one thing when I was watching the first episode of this, when I say why it's so important, because you guys are really not trying to be like, this is how it should be. We're just talking, right? We're just in that way educating each other and ourselves, and I think that's really a solution to the problem. So.
Pop-Tart talks a lot about like when you come to his city to see everything, to look at even the homeless guy on the street corner, like, do you come and take what you want and leave and not think about that guy on the street corner? Do you not think about what our community needs? Look at what's happening in our city. Look what we need. Look at this guy. What does he need? It's all about how can you be in service? How can you make some change where you go there, some positive change. And not always, this isn't a bad thing, but bringing people out of that community to your place, that's a great step. But it's also not a huge one, in my opinion. It's like just one of the things you can do to be in service. Like Junius, my mentor, executive director, urban artistry, Assassins, he's in service to so many communities and doing so many things that people just don't know. So it's like when you bring someone, it still highlights you a little bit. Because like, oh, I brought him for this, And same for me. I brought OG Telly. I'm proud of that. But Junius is doing things that nobody even knows. Like right now, he's documenting some of the original blues dancers from Durham, North Carolina that did a dance called Buck Dance. He's filming them. He's getting them to name their moves, talk about the names of their moves, make them name things so that their traditions can be carried on. Like that's what that community, one of the things that community might need. And it's not a glorified thing, but that's the thing. That's the selfless part of it. You don't have to do something that glorifies you to be contributing to this thing.
So like the awareness is one part, but what do we do with it afterwards, right? Like we can talk about African American traditions, but like there's still like a lot that needs to be worked on, like with the race issue itself. It's not just enough to be aware of it. We have to create changes and actions.
Yeah.
Rena.
ClashCPH. Rena says, often we see people outside the U.S. misuse these words. They only relate and focus on their own without even embracing the whole. Yeah, It becomes shallow. Straight up. Like you guys said, taking only what we like and what fits.
Yes.
And that is very, very, very important. Because when you isolate things for what's convenient for you, that's what we've been talking about, this sort of like more selfish attitude toward instead of a selfless one towards these dances. All right, RoboZ, we're going to try round 2. You have individual aspects, and each individual person needs to understand the balance between sharing, supporting others, and the healthy ego to be conscious and aware about himself. Okay, so like a balance of like you, the culture of you and the people around you and how you affect that. I got you, man. All right, Sam, I feel like people take a word and then put the word culture behind it because that's the only thing they know or like. That's only the gaining part. Do you guys think that is fast accepted by the majority of people and where confusing comes in? Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, yeah, you put the word culture because it's just a key word. That's what, and that's what the whole episode's about. These key words that people are manipulating. These are words you can manipulate to sound like you know what you're talking about. Sounds good when you write a grant. Sounds good when you say it to someone that doesn't know a lot about the dance. Oh, the culture. I'm doing it for the culture, the culture of Memphis Jukin. I'm doing it for that. But, it's done in a way where it's more of a game than it is something that's a give.
Yeah.
And what's that? Ikari, do dancers that partake in commercial gigs take from the culture or represent the culture? It's a good question.
It's a good question.
You want to go?
No, you should go.
So everything is commercial now. Battles are commercial. Everything is like funded by governments, and like people are getting paid to do exhibition battles and getting paid to judge. And for me, everything is very commercial, like in terms of like, it's not just pure culture anymore. There's money involved. Pure culture is like pure culture, but when money gets involved in culture, it gets complicated. It doesn't mean that there's no value. It just means that, and this is why there's degrees of it, right? So there's degrees of representing culture. some commercial gigs represent a tiny piece. Other ones represent more, you know. Some of the large urban street dance events represent the culture, not all the way fully. It's not purely that, but it at least gives you like, you know, you see, okay, popping battle, locking, you know, there's a workshop in these things and it's breaking down the urban dance styles. At least there's some cultural relevance, you know, and they bring in different OGs and stuff, you know. Maybe not all the ones that we could, but at least they're trying to do that, you know. Some commercial gigs, like other things, like commercials, like for a vodka or like a commercial for a sports car, like or backup dancing. I would even say backup dancing for a singer. There's not much. There's like it's like so little because really like the only thing that you're seeing is the movement, which is a part of the culture. But again, that's not the big picture. So the whole point of the episode is like, how do we keep in our minds when we take commercial gigs, like still trying to represent the culture? And I've been wanting to say that to people that take big commercial gigs for a long time is like, how are you guys also being a representative of the culture and talking to these people in a way that's like, yeah, but these things I won't do, these things I'm okay with being flexible with that as long as it represents this sort of thing in some way, you know. So I think I think culture is represented in some of the commercial gigs, but it's very little. It's super little. And even when you look at the mainstream dance battle scene, there's not a lot of like pure, authentic Black American traditional dance culture. It's just not. It's just really not.
Yeah. I think where it starts to take from the culture is where you kind of, if you're helped with the education of this is what it is, you know, the moment there's no talk or there's no reasoning about sharing knowledge of how big this thing is, and then it kind of takes, because then it let the normal Mr. and Mrs. Denmark or wherever you are believe that, oh, this is what it is, you know, and it kind of helps sharing that belief, and as soon as it does that, it kind of takes from everything else.
Yeah.
So I think it's also very much about what are you, like, even when you're doing this stuff, well, what are you sharing to, what are you telling, what are you telling in your interview afterwards, you know, what are you, because as soon as you get a lot of the, whatever it be, viewers or followers, you can do all that stuff, but what are you also doing, you know, what are you also telling?
Yeah, it's different, like from dancer and commercial, you know, as soon as you start having to water down the expression to fit the audience, you're actually like, you're compromising on the culture and the expression of it. Yeah. And if you also are using people who are like the gimmick, we're talking about minstrel pop, you know,
minstrel hip hop,
then you're not doing good for the culture. You're damaging it, you know, by mocking it, you know, by this stereotype that people think hip hop.
Right. With the hat.
No,
like you have, like you look like you want to be black, but you don't know anything about black culture, and you're not from those areas, and you're just
far away from that.
Faking the funk.
But on the fashion.
The other thing I think about is like,
we cut off automatically.
Oh yeah. 1 minute left. So all right, we got 1 minute. Everyone on Instagram, go to YouTube. Funk and Focus YouTube Live. We're live there. We're going to keep going for about 10 more minutes. Again, everybody I'll answer some of these questions from the Instagram over there, but ClashCPH Festival coming up October 29th through November 4th. We're here in Copenhagen, so hope to see some European friends every Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Future Assassins. And check out Urban Artistry DC on Instagram. Check out ClashCPH on Instagram, and Funk and Focus on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
Yeah, see you at YouTube.
All right. Peace out, Instagram.
YouTubers. Hold on. There was a lot happening here too.
All right, let's go. Oh, YouTubers.
They're popping.
YouTubers. All right, what's going on here? Get the dance back where it started. I would like to see more random street jamming. That's what I mean. Share on the street, not just TV shows, not just events. I think becoming the best you can be is also a good addition to the culture, so if you have something to see. Yeah, I mean, I think that being the best you can be is good, but I also think that, hold on, let me go to this other screen. Oh, we are on that screen. I think, but also I think you need balance, because you can be a great mover and you can be a shitty representative of the culture. Like, it doesn't mean you're a good representative just because you're talented. Like, anyone can learn to move their body in a certain way. But what type of human being are you being an example for? You want to make people dance because you're good? That's cool. Then what? What's next? So you got to think bigger than just movement. Think about being a full representative. Like, how can you represent the big picture? We talked about the big picture of the culture. Instead of being a little piece, oh, I'm a good battler, look how good I move. Be a good speaker about dance. Go to those communities, help them out in some way. Talk to people from those cities. Bring people to your city. And all of these things will make you a better dancer too, actually.
Yeah,
Those they all make you better anyway.
Yeah.
So then you're a dope dancer and you're intelligent about what you do. You're connected to people in those communities. You're in service to that, which is also going to make you be able to do more things for yourself, because you'll have more knowledge and more connections with people, and you know, like, be a better dancer because of it. So it's bigger than movement. It's bigger than movement.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all I want to say about that. But
I think Gabriel asked a question that was important. I think it's something that people are maybe from here would think similar to. He asked, like, do you have to be part of the culture of urban, like, to become a good dancer?
Do you have to be a part of the culture to be a good dancer?
Yeah.
But it's also but I mean, it's also just funny because, you know, you can get to a certain point by yourself, right? But then you just get so much further with the culture. So it's not that you have to. I don't want to say you have to. You probably can become good to a certain degree without it. But it connect with what you just said before, right? The whole aspect just make you so much better. And like, I remember some time where I seen someone, I was like, oh, I like how they move. And actually afterwards, when I talk with them, I was like, oh. What? You believe that? And then when I see them move again, actually it just doesn't look the same.
Yeah.
You know, it's connected because we're people.
Yeah.
The way you move and the way you talk is connected with, like, everything. So,
your spirit, the energy you give.
So if you're going to be like, well, I just like to dance and I just don't want to think about the culture, that's also going to come through when you dance.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah. I didn't finish saying what I was saying earlier about the commercial gigs. What I question sometimes is, like, okay, we have all these people doing these large commercial gigs, and people do it in the name of spreading the culture, right? Yeah. They do these big commercials, these big companies. It's all about spreading the culture, they keep saying. But I'm curious, like, what does it really do when people see the watered down sort of product of what the culture is? Like, when you see that, it might make you want to dance, right? So I can't, because Michael Jackson made me want to dance, and he was a watered down product of the culture. He was. So I can't hate on that. Like, that can reach people, but when you get into, like, it more, like I got into it more, I actually had to do a lot of work to actually, and years to actually figure out more of the culture and more of the real people. Because nowadays, like, people that are doing commercial gigs, it's still the same. Like, what you're doing is not teaching them culture. You're just giving them a snapshot of the movement, but they don't know anything about the dance. So, like, the only good thing about that to me is that it might bring someone into the culture, which is good. But even today in our commercialized scene, you're still not learning about Black Americans and, like, the way they grew up in their cities. Like if you go to major events, like let's say someone sees something on a commercial gig, then they go to a jam, you still are like, there's still so much more, you know? So it's like, for me, I want to be somebody that reaches people and gives them the full scope. I don't want to be someone that's like saying that I'm doing it for the culture, but really I'm making a lot of money to just get people possibly interested. And you're not connected to any of these people either on a personal level.
Yeah.
You don't know how long they're going to do it. You don't know if they're going to actually be someone like me that digs deep into it, you know? And it seems sort of a little more shallow or something to me. It seems a little bit more.
When I was thinking of this situation, like Wild Style, the movie, like that's one of the reasons why in Denmark have breaking. Because that movie, that's like through a movie setting, but it's by using people who are pretty much like co-founders and creators of the dance. And in the movie, just that short clip of them, but it wasn't because it brought like awareness to the whole history of that.
Yeah.
But it still like created a whole like hype over here, you know, to imitate what they saw there.
Yeah.
And then from that imitation, that's called the MJ effect. That made people more curious to what that was, you know, and kind of like before internet time, you know, try to find relatives who are from there who could like give them information, save up money to travel over there to meet people on it. So that's kind of different.
That's good. I just think that people, if you're an artist that does that, you should still strive to be more than that.
Yeah.
You just have to strive, because if that's your only contribution, is doing something that pays you well and it gives like a really snapshot of what the culture is, and you think that that's it, then I just don't think that that's enough. Like you should be also like in your communities or like in the areas you are and you're going, like giving people the full scope of the culture and what it is like. But there's people that are just doing commercial work and saying that it's for the culture, and that's not necessarily like the deepest way to do it or the most impactful way. I feel like there's more deeper, more impactful ways to do it.
And at that time, you know, like you said, the internet wasn't also around, so maybe you couldn't really find too much. Like there weren't that many people who were broadcasting just for the money or for the for the show and that. And so when you went to search, you actually might end up finding the thing you were searching for. But today there's just so much, right? Internet, Instagram, Facebook, all these different.
It's become so watered down. Like the information flowing out are also watered down information.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you go to an urban dance battle and it's still watered down. Because everything is so commercial and just stripped of culture. It's so fashionable. I mean, look at the events in Asia. It's such just a sport and a fashion, and there's still a place for that. That's okay. Like we're saying, it can bring awareness, but it's just like, but who is dedicated to the culture more? It's like, I don't know. I still see that a lot.
And again, like it's really important. It's not just the movement. That it's not enough to just see people moving, you know, to the music and whatever. And then you're like, oh, I got the information or whatever. Like, it really is the culture that comes with it. It's the conversations. It's being in that environment, you know, and having the interactions, you know.
I also think sometimes it's kind of interesting how it kind of misdirects itself sometimes, that, you know, when it's small and like in the communities, the culture is so strong, but when it becomes bigger, it's just so hard not to think about money in some sense, right? And that's why we know with so many events, I hear people be like, oh, it used to be the bomb, or it used to be so nice, but now I can't even see the dancers, you know, and I don't even feel it. And, you know, it happened with so many events. So I think that's an interesting thing to think about. Like
all from small things, right? Like we feel it too when we're organizing, you know, when we try to book a venue, you know, and it's like we're bringing our activities and the people and then they're like, oh, but change that because then we can bring more, like our audience will understand it too, and their audience is like has nothing to do with urban and all. They just look for a great Friday evening out, you know, and it's like then you
Yeah.
feel like, nah, now you're actually telling me to water down my shit so I can sell it,
Right.
you know, and I'm not going to do that. Or even from simple thing as camera people, you know, like, oh, like it's important that the camera person is like up in their faces, you know, and blocking for the audience or whatever. And it's like, so you can get that, you know, streamed out and you get your numbers of views. But then it's like you're conflicting with the audience who are there and trying to like get that genuine experience. Again, like, where do you like there's a limit to where you start playing with like, okay, now I'm actually selling out a bit, you know, or like watering down.
Yeah, and that's them inserting their culture into yours, you know. So it's like those are the times where it's like we have to teach people what the culture is. Like people we're working with, commercial people, we have to at least share with them what's important to us, you know, like this is important to us that we represent this. Like I can't do this. Like have some boundaries. Like I won't call it dance off. I'm gonna call it a battle. Like I mean, just whatever it may be. But it's like they try to change the language and everything because that's what they fit with their culture. But it's like, yeah, but if it's a true collaboration, you actually would respect my culture too.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. People are so opportunistic and so hungry for money that they're not teaching people what they come from and being grounded in what they represent. You know. Okay, we got more.
Oh, yeah.
I understand, Christopher. I understand what you mean now. There is much more than just movement when it's about sharing the culture. But then, how would we share the rest of the culture at events? Which is we've talked about that a little bit. But do you want to kind of share some ideas on that?
I guess what he also means is like everything, like how do you share foods and graffiti and stuff at events? Maybe he's thinking about that. I'm not sure. But what we also talked about is like sharing the knowledge too. You know, if there's something where you really feel like this is, and it rarely is, but if it's really impossible for you to bring that, at least talking about it is like so important. You know, bringing awareness there, as we've been talking about. If we couldn't bring this into the stuff we do today, well, maybe next time let's go together to this. Like we can all go. It doesn't have to be so formal in that sense. Let's go check this out. I saw somebody writing about DJs, you know. Let's talk about the DJs too. But yeah, then, you know, you go to their gigs, you go to their events, they have battles too, you know, they're connected with us too. Why not see what that is, you know, and see how we can connect, you know, and in the end. Yeah, I remember.
All right, so I think we're good.
Yeah,
I'm a little over an hour right now.
Ooh.
So hold on, we got one more thing. What is Clash?
Oh, Arena.
Thoughts on studying urban dance culture outside the U.S. when you want to go deeper into the dance?
Oh, okay. Well, there are like outside of U.S.
Yeah, so you guys can maybe talk about how you guys do that here, with your history of dance here.
Oh my God.
Like the understanding your own dance culture, maybe. Like, and that could be a good example for other countries and people from different countries throwing events to do the same. People go to Paris and Japan, for instance, to study more. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Danish people go to Paris. You know, that's common that they want to go there to study. Again, like if you're like associated for a study, like a school program or whatever, you still have to dig into the different cultures that nurture, you know, the different communities that nurture this culture, you know, like. So if it is Paris, again, like it's the same thing that I talked about with New York. It's not enough to just go for a month and attend like these classes on a shallow basis, and then you have no interactions like on a deeper level with the unsung communities, you know, like the ones that aren't like the popular people, you know, like you're not really building or investing your time and effort into learning more about it on a much more like what do you call that? On a regular basis. Sorry. English.
Yeah, I also think just like with the different states, there's different cultures. People eat different things, people listen to different music, people dress differently, and so it shaped the dance. And there's nothing wrong in, getting to understand the different areas just as much as there are different states in the U.S. When you go there. We can't just be like, yeah, I was in USA and now I know how to dance hip hop there.
I know.
It's a big place.
Yeah, it's so
Paris
crazy.
is huge,
Yeah. So I think if that's the question, that's okay too, to go and understand. Now I wanna see how they do it in Japan. It's of course okay to be aware that that's not where it started, but they have stuff now too.
Yeah.
They contribute as well, but it would be wrong to forget the rest. It would be wrong to go there and be like, oh, this is hip hop in Japan, or like in Paris at one point. Okay, we call it hip hop. Let's go hip hop all the way and different. We have to still acknowledge the place where it came from to understand it. To understand ourselves better too.
Yeah, and acknowledge the different things that it has done for other cultures and communities too. That's also important to acknowledge that France has multiple communities that have reacted differently on the dances that they've seen.
And France and Japan is also two places who has actually, I believe so, brought a lot of American dances to their country through the times. To get an understanding too. Which has been a help of shaping their culture too. So.
True. All right. I think we're going to call it quits there. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Funk and Focus Urban Dance and Dialogue Series, Episode 4. ClashCPH. Come to the festival. Check us out. Funk and Focus Instagram. Future Assassins Instagram. Subscribe to Funk and Focus on YouTube. And we'll see you guys next Sunday.
Bye.